Hello, BookTube. Well, we're beginning the month of February here in the benighted year of 2025, and that immediately hits the ground running on BookTube with all sorts of events and group reads and buddy reads and read-alongs and read-alouds and all that sort of stuff. Already there's more than you can possibly do. I left a sarcastic comment on video from Debs at Rainer Read Stuff because she was listing off the 50 BookTube things she's going to do in the month of February alone. So she'll do them, and then that will kill her, and we'll put that on her tombstone. But it was only partially sarcastic because you could fill the entire month with all this sort of stuff. I wanted to go over just a handful of those, a couple of things, some that are official and some that aren't. Just to bring you up to speed. Now, the thing that I want to mention first, I actually have visual prompts for, which is Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. Roger Hotep, the nefarious co-host of Michael K. Vaughan's channel, hosts the internet's cheapest book club. I think he mentioned this is the third year, where all the books are free on Project Gutenberg. They are free as ebooks. They are in the public domain. You read one book a month, starting in February. So I thought we'd go over his picks for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. Starting with the first one for this month, The Spy by James Fenimore Cooper. Oh my God, that placing won't do it all, will it? The Spy by James Fenimore Cooper, who's famous for his Leatherstocking tales. This is a theme that runs throughout a number of Michael K. Vaughan's choices this time around. An unspoken theme, because I don't think it's intentional, is that some writers only have a couple of really good books in them, or only one. And they keep writing. They keep at it. I don't think The Spy is successful. I've got my schmutz all over the screen here. Let's see if we can fix that. I kind of thought I'd be holding the screen in the opposite direction, but the last thing I want to do is block the sight of the bean from people who have been bean deprived. Maybe that's a little better. This has its moments, 2 moments in particular, but it'd be really interesting to read it again. Then the next book for March is one of the 2 legitimately good books. Michael K. Vaughan is the popular persona that he cultivates on BookTube is that he is largely a stranger to legitimately good books. That is not true. Go into his older videos and watch. He reads a lot of great stuff and loves it. Nevertheless, on this list for this year's Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, genuinely good books are hard to find. But the one for March is not just good, but great. It's The King of Elfland's Daughter by Lord Dunsany, which is incredible. It is a great fantasy novel. Well worth your time to read, especially since it's free on Project Gutenberg. And you might say, well, I'm not on Project Gutenberg. We'll get to that. I'll add all sorts of addendums at the end once we've gone through with all the books for all you problem children. This is wonderful. A foundational fantasy title. Then for April, we leave the realm of genuinely good books. We leave it so far behind that we can't even forward mail. But we stick with our unspoken theme of one-hit wonder authors, because this is The Jewel of 7 Stars by Bram Stoker. Who I know that the pedants, which Mike is not a pedant, he just loves to go at this obscure weird stuff, as you're going to see, because the quintessential Michael K. Vaughan choice is on this list this year. But nevertheless, the bookish equivalents of hipsters will look at something like Jewel of 7 Stars, or better yet, the unpublished first draft of Jewel of 7 Stars, and say, yeah, it really is peak Stoker. Yeah, I think he wrote another book. It was about a count or something. I don't really know it. I mean, what the populace does is one thing, but yeah, that first draft has never been published. You have to go to his home and actually sit in his basement with his heirs looking at you in order to read it. But that really is, yeah, that kind of pretentious hipster nonsense notwithstanding, this book stinks. Every book that Bram Stoker wrote except Dracula stinks. And that is not a criticism. It's maybe a criticism of the mainstream publishing industry and the way it puts the onus of momentum on writers who it is unrealistic to think have a lifetime of great stories in them. It's unrealistic of us to think that. Dracula is a masterpiece. It's an absolutely great book. It is absolutely terrific. I've done a read-along on this channel. I've done a read-aloud on this channel. I've read it literally. This is one place in which Mike and I definitely coincide, is that neither one of us knows how many times we've read the book. It's one of those books where you can't even guess how many times you've read it, in whole or in part. It casts a spell, and Jewel of the Seven Stars does not. So April is going to be a long month. but then the next month, May, is perfect. It is the quintessential Michael K. Vaughan pick. And I guess it's free on Project Gutenberg. I haven't gone to look. It's Weird Tales issue number 1. Weird Tales is the quintessential foundational American horror fantasy magazine. Launched lots of careers, is a touchstone, is a genuinely important periodical to read, to study. One of the things that's often forgotten about it, so the reason why I absolutely hail this pick, is that in addition to being foundational and important, Weird Tales is also lots of fun to read. Almost every issue has something in it that is just pure gold. I don't remember off the top of my head if Ooze is one of those things, but Ooze won't be the only thing in this issue, I don't think. This is an inspired choice. You should definitely consider it. Ooze is by Anthony Rudd. A Tale of a Thousand Chills, complete in this issue. And it's, as you can see, tentacle fiction. But I don't know if there's anything else in this issue. I think there is. But anyway, we'll move on to June, which is the time period for June on the Range, a beloved BookTube event created by Michael K. Vaughan, where we read Westerns. And for June, for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, Mike has picked one of the most famous Westerns ever written, The Virginian, by Owen Wister. There is the main character presenting everyone behind him with a clear view of his sassafras. This is I don't want to be tempted to go on at enormous length about Owen Wister. I could go on at enormous length about Owen Wister, the author. But this book, if you've only heard of it, or maybe you haven't heard of it at all, because the echo, the renown of it, the status of The Virginian as a living book is over. It doesn't live anymore, except as a curiosity. But once upon a time, oh my God, it was unbelievably popular. And I wonder, when June rolls around and a lot of you are reading this for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, I wonder if we will see why. I'll be really curious to know. Roger's Cheap Old Book Club is going to have an enormous number of energetic, die-hard readers. None of us are beginning readers. Beginning readers don't like that there is such a thing as beginning readers, but none of us are that. We all eat, sleep, and breathe books. I've read a lot of them and thought about a lot about what works and doesn't work in a book. I'd be willing to bet that most people in Roger's Cheap Old Book Club will be coming to The Virginian for the first time. But you won't be coming to it as a neophyte reader, and that makes me curious to know, will we be able to spot the elements that made this the runaway enormous hit that it was? I think it's fascinating. I hope that there are discussion videos about Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. Then we move on to July, which is the hosting month for yet another beloved BookTube event. This one also created by Michael K. Vaughan, Rocket Summer, where we read classic science fiction. Classic in the sense of old. Not always classic in the sense of good, as is evidenced by the pick this time around, which is A. Merritt's book, The Moon Pool. Which is bad. This is a bad science fiction novel. It is. If I could find a mass market paperback with this cover, I would treasure it. But I would treasure the cover more than I would treasure the book. Although, to be fair, I haven't reread The Moon Pool in a long time. With Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, every year, he picks some things that I have not reread in a long time. And so, buoyed by the optimism of his channel, I go in thinking, well, I haven't read it in a long time, so maybe I missed a lot of great stuff. And no, I didn't. I didn't miss anything great in The Shrinking Man. I didn't miss anything great in a lot of these things, but you never know. This author was as clever as the day is long. Probably wrote this book one draft in probably an hour. There's not a lot of cracks in there that cleverness can get in through, but you never know. I could easily have missed it. If I read it on a bored Iowa afternoon, it's high time I read it again. Then what have we got? August. Oh no, I left out a picture. Okay, well, this next one you're going to have to do without a picture. It's The People of the Mist by Rider Haggard. Which is, again, the theme that's running through Roger's Cheap Old Book Club this year is that not every author can write a great book every time at bat. And Rider Haggard is a perfect example of that. Bram Stoker is a quintessential example of that. Wrote only one genuinely enjoyable book. But Rider Haggard wrote a ton of books. He's most famous for two. Only two. Which I shouldn't say only, right? Because how many authors work their whole life and never get a book lodged in the zeitgeist even for a minute? Much less for 3 generations. King Solomon's Mines, and especially She, by Rider Haggard, lodged in the zeitgeist for 3 generations. That's a long time. They're both gone now. But nevertheless, they, like the Virginian, they were huge. And the thing that we're reading is The People of the Mist. Which is, Mike always does this. He at least 2 or 3 times in every Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, he picks books for which he is, before we sink into enjoying them, he's first going to have to issue lots of apologies. And People of the Mist is, as I've mentioned many times, our social consciousness up until the year 2025 was genuinely and positively raised. There's nothing wrong with that. That's really good. We don't want to pick up an old piece of what a virtue signaling blue checkmark on social media would certainly call The People of the Mist a colonialist novel, a racist colonialist novel. And in the 21st century, we don't want to pick up a piece of fiction like that and simply not care. We want to notice and we want to care. We might want to still go on and see if we can enjoy it anyway. Here on BookTube, we tend to do that. We tend to think, unless the offenses are just egregious, we will read the book and see. We'll see whether or not we can glean an interesting story despite the little bits and pieces that don't work, that are bad. And those bits and pieces exist in People in the Mist, so we will see. We'll see what people make of it. I think I have a mass market paperback of it here. There was a time when Del Rey Books reprinted all of Rider Haggard, not just She. They reprinted all of Rider Haggard with specifically commissioned science fiction fantasy style cover art so that it could compete on the spinner rack with all sorts of other stuff, with Dragon Riders of Pern and whatnot. They specifically did that in order to help Rider Haggard get across to a new readership. I don't know that it worked. It worked on me. I bought all those paperbacks, but I don't know that I have them all still. But anyway, let's move on to, where are we now? September, which is The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle. Which is, if you are of a certain age and you know anything about Robin Hood, think you know anything about Robin Hood, you probably know it from this book, which had a million different editions. The edition that Mike held up had Howard Pyle's original illustrations, but it's had a million editions. I don't remember which edition I have. I'm not 100% sure that I have an edition, but I can certainly get one before, when was this again? September. I can certainly get one before then. And it's for children. But adults, an adult can still enjoy it very much. And this is the quintessential bawdlerizing and sanitizing and scrubbing and heroicizing and Errol Flynnizing of the Robin Hood mythos. So everything that you think you know about Robin Hood will be here. Absolutely. The Friar Tuck and Maid Marian and Little John and Robin Hood himself, they'll all be here exactly the way you expect to find them. And Howard Pyle's terrific. As a popularizer and a storyteller, he's terrific. So this is an inspired choice, although not a good book. There is one more good book. Don't worry, though. Then for October, Well, it would be unreasonable for us to expect that a Michael K. Vaughan event would not occasionally have a quintessential Michael K. Vaughan pick. That would be unreasonable to expect. And boy, oh boy, I mean, it has some competition from Weird Tales #1, but the choice for October is the John Silence stories by Algernon Blackwood. Keep in mind, and we'll get to this, I will finish with this, but these are free. These are all in the public domain, so you're not out any money if you want to get an ebook of these and read them on your device, on your tablet or your e-reader. We're in... I don't want to scandalize the Dude Bros here, especially since the Dude Bros don't as yet know that Algernon Blackwood is one of them. But Algernon Blackwood is not an example of an author who struck gold that one time, or 2 times in the case of Rider Haggard, or Dracula in the case of Bram Stoker. He's not a case of that. He's an author who's never been good. He never did anything that was any good. And the John Silence stories, oh my God, what on earth possessed Mike to put this on the list? I cannot wait to see what you all make of these stories. Cannot wait to see. I will reread them myself. Then this next one for November is by Edwin Arnold, and this one is quintessential. I'm surprised this has not been on Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. I imagine it's because maybe it fell into the common domain just this year, so it couldn't have been. You couldn't have got a free copy. But this is Gulliver of Mars, with a Frank Frazetta cover. I know I have this somewhere. This is a Martian adventure. This is a proto science fiction, other worlds, alien, human story that I have not read. Oh my God, I don't know how long it's been since I read this book. Same thing with a lot of things on this list. I don't know how long it's been since I read this. I can't wait to give it another try and see whether or not it's any good. Obviously, it's you're if you just heard that description, you're going to think it sounds like a Edgar Rice Burroughs ripoff. If anything, it's the reverse that's true. But it'll still be very much in that vein if you like the Barsoom novels of Edgar Rice Burroughs. And if you don't, what's wrong with you? But if you like those novels, you're going to want to read this and might not have. And keep in mind, I don't know about the Frank Frazetta cover, but the book is free on Project Gutenberg. And then we finish up with the other good book on the list, the other genuinely good book on the list in December. So I probably won't be joining you for this, although I have read this book many, many times, and I've also taught it. And that's Omu by Herman Melville. Last year, Roger's Cheap Old Book Club included Typee. Now we have Omu. This is pre-Moby Dick Herman Melville, which really should be read. Pre-Moby Dick Herman Melville really should be read. There's all sorts of fascinating stuff to talk about and think about when it comes to his earlier books, the ones that made him a familiar name in bookstores, the ones that could have started a very prosperous commercial career. Omu and Typee could have done that. These are very much worth reading once you get into Melville's particular style. And this is at the end of the year, so there's a free copy at Project Gutenberg, so you have forever and ever to find a copy. Unlike a lot of these things, in Virginian you could probably find a copy, a paperback copy. Probably you could at your used bookstore somewhere. It's had 1 million editions, and Omu's had 1 million editions, so you could probably find it somewhere. But that is Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. I might as well keep Omu on the screen since there's nothing wrong with that cover. We should all be so colonized. That's Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, which is the cheapest book club on the internet. All the books are free on Project Gutenberg. They're all in the public domain, so you can just download them to your Kindle or your tablet or your Kindle app or your Kobo app or whatnot. Project Gutenberg is very good about that. Their ebooks are very well curated. There are no mistakes. There are no thumbprints or anything like that. Nice, clean editions. They have done wonders in the last couple of years in adding covers, in chasing down the copyrights for covers and adding some covers to books. But you can always make a cover of your own, or do without a cover, since it's the book that counts, even in this case. But even though Roger's Cheap Old Book Club is the cheapest book club on the internet, there might be some of you that cavil. Well, I don't want to read an ebook. I don't have an e-reader. It's all so technical and complicated. And to those people, I want to add my own postscripts to Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. These are not connected with Michael K. Vaughan. I want to stress that. He is not saying this. I am saying this. That if you insist on reading these books in printed paper format, I would be happy. I'm not in time really for February, for The Spy by James Fenimore Cooper, but I would be happy to try and find you, for instance, a print copy of The King of Elfland's Daughter and mail it to you. I'd be happy to try and do that. I understand that a lot of people who watch Mike's channel, who watch my channel, do not have access to really good used bookstores. Do not have access to that just endless flow of used books. I understand that that's true, and I want to help. So, any of the books on this list, if you don't have them and you don't fancy that your Oxfam shop will ever have them, and you want to read them as a physical book, then email me. My email is on every video. Email me. Let me know which ones you want. Give me your shopping list, and I will try my best to find them for you in time for you to read them for the month in question. If you want to get around the whole free on Project Gutenberg part that way, by getting the print books in the mail, I'd be happy to do that. There's nothing pleasanter, nothing more fun than getting books in the mail. So pick the ones you're interested in doing, and let me know if that applies to you. And if you really want to join with ebooks, let me know if you want me to send you an e-reader. Let me know if you want to send me to send you a basic Kindle or a basic Kobo. Let me know if that's something, if that's the sticking point. Oh, baby, are we going to get the year's first free to yoga? Let's see. Oh, goodness. Oh, are you going to go over there? Oh, baby, don't jump when you're stretching. Oh, my God. Oh, that was rather violent, wasn't it? How are you doing over there? Oh, you're going to lick your butt? Hmm? What are you doing, baby? Oh. That's your other home there. What are you doing, baby girl? Huh? Hi, baby. What are you doing? What, you want to come back over here? Come back over here. There you go. You don't want to be over there. It's too cold. There you go. Oh, there's my baby girl. There's my baby girl. Oh. Oh. There's my baby girl. Oh. All right. Okay. Okay. It's all right. So, fireworks over here, I think. So where was I? I was holding up Omu. That's for sure. That's one thing I was doing. Oh, right. If you want me to find you the print and paper book for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club or any other book that you want, feel free to let me know, and I will do my best. If you need an e-reader, feel free to let me know. I've got a bunch of them here, and I'm happy to send you one. So there you go. You really don't have an excuse not to participate. Now, I lost my place because of my little dog's antics. So let's go back to where we were in the notebook, because that is Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. But that is not the end of various book groups. Do I need this for that? No, I don't need that for anything else. All right, so let's see here. The next book club related thing, of course, when I saw Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, I immediately thought of the Steve Tiberius Donahue Book Club, because the bulk of you have not had an STD in quite some time, and that's unacceptable. So, but I think it's too late to pick a February pick for a book. I mean, it's the 2nd of February. This is the first weekend in February. If we were to pick a book for February, we'd be hitting the ground running next weekend, which doesn't leave most of you, a lot of time to find the book in question and do any reading. So I'm thinking March. I'm thinking we should restart the Steve Tiberius Donahue Book Club in March. Now, I want to stress two things. One, the Steve Tiberius Donahue Book Club is just its own thing. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not I do read-alongs aside from that, and it especially doesn't have anything to do with whether or not I do read-alouds. I'm going to do both of those things. Lots of them. This is just a separate thing. That's all. It's just a separate bell and whistle, a separate feature. And I have a book that I want us to read in March, which is going to raise a whole bunch of questions. It's a biography. It's a big fat biography. It's this. It's Sarah Bradford's biography of Queen Elizabeth II. Big thick thing that, as you can see, I have stuffed with paperwork. This has, let's see here, 18 chapters. So in March, what is that? 5 chapters a week. So we would read, for the first weekend in March, we would read all the way to chapter 5, which is that it's called a princely marriage. Maybe it's Elizabeth's marriage at first. And this is going to raise a whole bunch of, this is rather interesting cover design, because you've got a clear picture of the Queen underneath an intentionally obscuring dust jacket cover. I think it's a commentary on the biographical art, and we have a lot to talk about with the biographical art, because the number one thing that those of you who know this book are going to ask right away, with it being the March pick for the Steve Tiberius Donahue Book Club, is, well, why would we pick that book? Not to say that you're against reading a biography of Queen Elizabeth II, but why would you read that one when it was written when Queen Elizabeth II was in the full flush of her health, long before the major events of the end of her reign? She was still alive, had decades to go when this book was written. Why would you do that? Why would you read a book like that? Why indeed? We should talk about why indeed you would read a book like that. Why would you? I like the idea. I like the exercise, because it underscores the fact that you shouldn't be reading biographies as though they were stock market teletypes, that where only the latest information is important. And one way to underscore that is to read an incomplete biography, something that where if Sarah Bradford were to write a biography of the Queen now, she'd have a lot more to write about. So that throws the spotlight off of the currentness of her information and throws it back on where I think it should be, which is the strength of the narrative. What kind of reading is this? So that's going to be our pick for March. Sarah Bradford's biography of Queen Elizabeth II, which we will do for the Steve Tiberius Donahue Book Club. And then there was one other collective book reading thing that I wanted to mention. It's not a read-along with That Reading Guy for Body and Soul by Frank Conroy. And it's not a read-along or a buddy read or a book discussion with Steve either. Steve is excluded. It's Joseph Reed's Books, who did a reading update video just yesterday, I think it was. Sick as a Dog did a video anyway. And in the course of that video, he mentioned Ira from SF New Words of Wonder, another BookTube channel, science fiction BookTube channel, SF Words of Wonder, not Worlds of Wonder, that they are going to be reading Startide Rising by David Brin, a book that I have mentioned on this channel countless times, praised many times on this channel, a paperback that I have given as a gift to I don't know how many people. I've lost count. Well over 100 people that I've handed that book to. I don't believe that Startide Rising is still in print, because it doesn't have open door romance scenes, because it doesn't have queer representation, because it's not TikTok friendly. So, because whatever reason that science fiction and fantasy eats its own, the book is not in print, I don't think. But there are copies available, and it is amazing. Absolutely amazing. They're going to be reading it together and probably having a video where they talk about it. I will watch piningly from the sidelines, but I will also take the opportunity to reread the book. Definitely. In fact, kind of tempted to a read-along on this channel. Kinda. I don't think I've done a read-along for science fiction other than Dune. I'm a little hesitant because it's the mass market paperback is not available in your bookstore. You would have to go looking for it. I could send you the e-copy. But otherwise, you'd have to go looking for it. I don't know, though. But I want to draw your attention to it. I'll leave a link to Joseph Reed's book's video down below because it's the book itself, Startide Rising, is well worth your time. But anyway, kind of unfocused here. This is just some communal BookTube stuff, which, as I mentioned, as you can tell from that Rainer Reed stuff video, is the tiniest tip of the iceberg. There's so much communal stuff going on, none of which Steve has been invited to, but all of which Steve cheers on. So there you go. Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, I think, is a no-brainer. But there's also the Steve Tiberius Donahue Book Club, and who knows, maybe we'll all be able to watch from a distance as that reading guy reads Body and Soul by Frank Conroy. Maybe we'll all be able to watch from a distance as Ira and Joseph read Startide Rising. Or maybe you won't have to watch from a distance. Maybe the rest of you will be invited. Must be nice. Anyway, there are lots of other events. I'll get to them. We'll do another video and I'll talk about more of them. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.